This video's gonna contain spoilers from the off, so I'm warning you now. The Paths That Choose Us is the title of episode 9 of season 3 of Foundation, and with there being a heavy focus in this episode about decisions that were being made with regards to Demerzel and the conflict that's going on with her programming, Gaal and her knowing that she was going to be facing off with the Mule, Brother Day with him looking to free Demerzel, and also Brother Dusk and him trying to force some kind of legacy in his final hours of existence. This was a really thought-provoking episode that had some of the show's more horrific moments embedded within it, but also some of its most tender too. So with that, let's break down this week's episode and discuss all the important details. Here is Foundation Season 3 Episode 9 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Brother Dusk. Brother Dusk absolutely stole this episode for me. All throughout this season, we've seen him battling with the idea of how he'll be remembered and him wanting to hold on to the life that he had left within him due to his ascension being something that was on the horizon. The Novacula's use was teased to us in episode 2, and this was the episode where we saw the true effects of the weapon and us seeing just how damaging it could be. It was able to wipe out a planet quicker than the Mule was able to convert the minds of everybody, and we actually got to see pure fear that was embedded within the Mule for the first time in the show, backing away and not saying a word. What I liked about Brother Dusk's positioning when speaking with the representatives of the Galactic Council and also the Mule was that his projection was above the middle throne, showing that he was in full command and was in the position that he wanted to be in where he'd be able to garner some respect. Dusk wasn't prepared to allow Trantor to be given up and for him to be offered to the Mule like a lamb to slaughter, so he and Demerzel agreed under the programming of the protection of the Empire to destroy the planets that the representatives were from. Hence why Demerzel was so upset when speaking to Zephyr in the previous episode. The Galactic Council, Cloud Dominion, and Maiden were all obliterated in a matter of seconds. Billions of people were eradicated faster than you could click your fingers, and Quent was left in the corner in tears, shocked at what she saw Dusk doing. This wasn't the Brother Dusk that she knew, and she saw exactly what he was doing. Trying to cement his place in history as an unforgettable Cleon, something that he was fearful of not becoming and was on the cusp of stepping into. This singular act was the act of a madman, because Brother Dusk had become more of a tyrant than the Mule actually was. Yeah, the Mule destroyed Calgon, but Brother Dawn in those final few moments took more lives than the Mule had ever done. Dusk was framing it as a way of protecting Empire, but that wasn't the case at all. I can't help but think back to the very first episode of the season where Dusk was watching the previous versions ascending and turning into ash, and him questioning the purpose of his own existence if he was just going to be replaced. Him using the Novacula and making a statement was his purpose, and him becoming consequential. At least that's what he thought it was. The same sort of mindset was adopted by him when he was walking through and looking at the room full of faces and posing the question around if it's their similarities that define them or their differences, and Dusk was looking at the differences. He was going to be destroyed being somebody that was consequential rather than the conciliator. He didn't want to be a diplomat, so he forged his own narrative. When Dusk was speaking with the Mule, I loved the confidence that he had in saying things like, "You do not force Empire's hand," and "In my last hours, I will not bow to a usurper named after a farm animal." Closing off his interaction by saying, "Mule, take the warning." I loved the confidence. After him killing billions of people, him so flippantly saying to the representatives, "Oh, and this is just to notify you," which is what they said to him when they confirmed that they were going to be giving Trantor to the Mule, it actually made me laugh a little bit. Dusk's actions were summed up in the most perfect way when Quent said to him that she thought he was a small petty man that was screaming in fear in his final moments, all because he wanted his life to be remembered. And I agree with that. What's particularly interesting about Dusk's actions is that the Mule knows that the Novacula can't quite reach New Terminus, as if it could, then Dusk would have fired towards it and took the Mule out the first chance that he got. So the death of all of those lives and the warning that Dusk gave the Mule might end up all being for nothing, as the Mule could make his way to Trantor. Demerzel. Demerzel is arguably one of the most interesting characters in the entirety of the show, and her story is about to get a whole lot more interesting with Brother Day retrieving the Brazen Head and looking to free her from the programming that Cleon gave her to serve and protect Empire above all else. But before we get to that, the paradox within her programming was something that was at the epicenter of this episode, as when she met Kale to discuss Gaal's vision when she saw the battle taking place inside of the Imperial Library on Trantor, showing that the Mule was going to make it there. She questioned why it was happening there. She spoke of the time during the Robot Wars 5,000 years ago where many of the robots folded themselves into shelves and cabinets to hide, but were ultimately pried away. Due to Gaal's vision, she was left wondering if it was her that offered the safe haven that was once present and was buried beneath the city to the people of the Second Foundation in order to preserve their lives. However, with her programming being the very thing that puts the protection of Empire above all else, with the Second Foundation technically being an enemy of Empire, she fears that she might well be the very thing that leads the Mule to them, and they could all end up dying because of her. This is a conflict for her and a deep paradox because within her own mind, she cares about the lives of the Second Foundation and doesn't want them to die. But she also worries that when the time comes, she could be the very thing that ends up causing their death, which ultimately tied into the metaphor that she spoke of with Dusk about her mind being a representation of the orchard and the maze-like structure of the garden. It being the weight of responsibility where every possible choice is there and she has to think of them all. I think Demerzel could well give those people safe haven in the place where the robots were once dragged away from, but I think she could well be free from the programming by then due to Brother Day returning. Brother Day. Following Brother Day being the final thing that we saw in episode 8, he didn't have that large of a feature in this one and there wasn't that many revelations with him. But what we did see was we saw that he managed to survive the fall, and after awaking with all of those creatures on him, he basically went down a drain and was saved by Song. Song believed all that he said about Demerzel being Daniil and that he wanted to free her, and with that, instead of fleeing, he went right back to the Sacratorium with the hopes of getting the Brazen Head so that Demerzel would be able to communicate with it and it may well stand a chance at altering her programming. Day was shocked that Song was there for him, and when Brother Day ran up to confront Sunmaster 18, she looked onto him in a way where it felt like there was a sense of love that she was holding on to. The memories might not be there within her mind, but that feeling of care, love, and admiration was something that she could well be holding on to. So I think Day did actually manage to change her opinion on him before he departed Mycogen. Seeing Sunmaster 18 run away in a panic was pretty hilarious to watch because it showed that he was a very weak leader and he didn't have what it took to lead the people of Mycogen if a true threat came their way. Brother Day fought with him and won with such ease, and I absolutely loved it because this is the Brother Day that I've been missing. The one that can put up a fight, the one that's ruthless, and the one that can take down the opposition with such ease. Brother Day took the Brazen Head, and the final thing that we saw from him was him leaving Mycogen, who now had no leader and was about to head back to the Imperial Palace. It'll be interesting to see if Demerzel can be freed, because I wonder if it will conflict with her current programming and it won't just be as easy as freeing her. It will quite easily go against her needing to serve Empire as a top priority, so that's going to make for some interesting viewing for sure. Watching Brother Day's relationship with Demerzel throughout this season is one that's been quite interesting. He's gone from not respecting her to resenting her to now being on the cusp of being her savior. No other Brother Day that we've seen would have had the empathy within them to want to free Demerzel. So in seeing the progression and transformation of his feelings towards her and understanding that she isn't the monster, but it's what they've told her to do, making them the monster, it's fallen at the right time for her. Gaal. Gaal's arc has been relatively straightforward in the sense that she wants to take out the Mule, and after landing on New Terminus, she was the closest that she'd ever been to him. The performance of Gaal's powers on the Warden was something that was obvious when she was projecting, but it was still very cool to see her being tricked. She gave Tellum vibes with how comfortable she now was with owning her abilities. The most haunting scene of the entire season of the show came when we saw Gaal trying to uncover the location of the Mule from the Warden, and she saw that he was inside of her mind and had control. The repeated motif of "I've never known such love" being played over and over again as the blood was coming out of her as the Mule was killing her from afar was just so petrifying to watch. The use of love as this weapon which strengthened the hold that the Mule had is such an interesting way of getting a hold of it. Love can often be weaponized, so it being the very thing that the Mule didn't have and him flooding people with it is almost symbolic of his unhealthy relationship and his lack of ability to truly love. The smile that she had on her face as the Mule killed her, showing that she died whilst feeling loved, was utterly horrific to look at. But what it also showed us was how in tune the Mule was, and that he had the ability to kill all of those people that he had a grasp on from afar. Tauren and Magnifico also appeared in this episode when Gaal and Pritchard went to the hideout that was made. This was where we saw the hold that the Mule had on Magnifico and that he felt like the love that he received from him was overbearing. I still think we could get the reveal that Magnifico is the real Mule and that he's been using this person as a way of concealing his identity, operating in the shadows and getting closer to his endgame, which is to destroy the Second Foundation. During Gaal and Hari Seldon's encounter, Gaal revealed that she knew how Hari Seldon saved Terminus before and how he didn't actually put them all inside of the vault. How instead, the four-dimensional object, which was the vault, projected more of itself into three-dimensional space. This was the very thing that Gaal wanted to utilize so that she'd be able to get inside of the station that was orbiting around New Terminus where the Mule was located. Hari Seldon said that he'd do it as long as he got a sense of freedom. He almost despised his creator and didn't even want to be referred to as Hari, showing that he'd only do it if he got a physical form that allowed him to no longer be trapped inside of the vault. And that was pretty much how we saw their interaction end. The vision that Gaal had was taking place inside of the Imperial Library, and where Gaal is heading towards, it isn't that. So it makes me wonder if the vision that we saw Gaal have is going to occur in Season 3, when the Mule inevitably takes Trantor. Unless all of that ends up happening in the space of the next episode, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. There was a hint again from Seldon in saying that the Mule story didn't quite add up, and I honestly can't wait to see what it is. Is it that Magnifico is actually the Mule? Is it that the baby brother was a baby sister and it's Beta? Or is it something that we don't even truly know about and hasn't been predicted yet? My review of the episode. I thought this was a solid episode of the show. I had a couple of favourite scenes. The first was when Brother Dusk just unleashed hell on the planets and had his final moments of trying to be remembered, but also showing the Mule that he shouldn't be messed with. The humour that he embedded into it and the total lack of regard that he had for the lives on those planets reminded me of the classic Empire that we were used to seeing in the previous seasons. Not these useless Cleons that basically sit on an empty throne. Plus, the other one that I liked was the scene with Gaal and the Warden. It was stylistically quite different to everything else that we saw, and it was almost like a scene from a horror movie. I thought it stood out well. It was creepy, but the inclusion of it really complemented it. With penultimate episodes, they're either all guns blazing and tend to be better than the finale because they're full of the action, or they're the setup. And for me, this was a penultimate episode that was more of a setup, but I don't mind that, because I feel the finale has been getting built towards in such a steadily paced way. The pacing of this season has been handled really well, in the sense that it's been quite slow, but it's been very eventful at the same time. So not at any point have I been bored, or has it felt like there's been an episode just for the sake of it. This has actually been the highest rated season on average when you take all of the episodes into consideration. It's comfortably in the 8s on IMDb, where in the past there have been seasons littered with 7s, so it has shown that this has truly been the best season of the show. One other element of this episode that I quite liked was that we got a bit of Gaal and Hari Seldon. They've been at the heart of previous seasons, and in this season, I wouldn't say that they've been neglected, but they've just not really been that needed, so we've not had that much time with them. However, Jared Harris's Seldon is always performed so well, so it was great to see. It does feel right that there's only one episode of the season left because it is drawing towards that climactic ending, but at the same time, it's going to be disappointing not getting the show for almost 2 years. So let's just hope the finale allows the show to go out in the way that it should. So, there you have it. Foundation Season 3, Episode 9, Ending Explained.